Hello, and welcome to our discussion of marketing in the 2010s. Really creative, really creative title there. um, Spent a lot of time preparing for this class. He said confidently. All right, so what we're going to talk about in this discussion, we're going to focus on two primary topics. The first one is topic that has been around for about 15 years. It's called value co-creation. And the second topic that we're going to talk about is we're going to build off of the technology discussion that we had in the overview lecture. So let's jump right into value co-creation. And like I said, this is a concept came out of academia actually, but has been applied by a number of organizations in the so-called real world. And value co-creation refers to engaging the customer directly in the production or distribution of value. And notice again that remember that when we had talked about the overview of marketing, we had talked about the concept of value again. Benefits being greater than the resources expended, and um, it talks about engaging the customer, and the question becomes is how can an organization engage a customer in the production or the distribution of value. So let's look at. We'll discuss a couple of ways that organizations can engage a customer in the production or the distribution of value. And one is the infamous make the product to order. So, when I talked about the Chipotle example, when I go in and I get my burrito bowl, right? I'm getting exactly what I want. Nike has a feature where you can design your own Nikes, right? You can design your own laptops. You can design your own automobile. Sometimes that stuff doesn't turn around as quickly. I have currently have a car being built, a made to order car, and it's taking a while, but like we said before, the customer expectations continues to increase, and I was offered a similar automobile, but it wasn't exactly what I was looking for, and I said no, I'll stick with what I ordered. A second way that customers can be engaged is through self-service. And if you think about the number of opportunities that you have for self-service in your interactions with organizations. So, for example, if you go into, let's say you go into Giant Eagle, which is a local. Actually, they're out of Pittsburgh, but they have expanded into the Cleveland market, right? They have self checkout aisles, right? Same thing. Home Depot has them. Some WalMarts have them. You can pump your own gasoline. I know that sounds like kind of a basic thing, but some of us are. That would be me. Some of us are old enough to remember when self-serve gasoline did not exist, and in fact, if you've ever been to the state of New Jersey, they still don't have self-service gasoline in the state of New Jersey, as crazy as it might sound. Um, you, I can now, you can now. I mean, I'm primarily a logistics person, right? And it's who I am. I teach principles of marketing, but my alleged area of expertise is logistics. And now I have the ability to track the orders that I make, online. So I can see where, I can see where something is. And you say, well, how does that add value? That adds value in the sense that it's something that I want to do, right? It also adds value in the sense that if I see that my order is like someplace that it really shouldn't be, like for example, suppose I'm getting my wife something for Valentine's Day, and I check on February 13th, and I find that the order is 2,000 miles from Cleveland. I got a decision to make, and I'm probably going to divert that thing and put it on an airplane so that my wife can get her Valentine's Day gift, and I don't get screamed at for the next 5 years. So again, and there are other ways that customers can become engaged in the production or distribution of value. And one of the key things about the value co-creation concept is it has changed the organization's view towards customers. So, for example, pardon me while I put my wonderful glasses back on, right? The customer moves from a passive agent to an active agent. So instead of the customer just kind of like, yeah, okay, and I ordered a diet soda, and in my world, it's soda because I grew up on the East Coast, and it was soda, not pop. So if I ever have a conversation with you and you say pop, I will stop and say soda. So yeah, you go into some restaurants and you place an order, and the soda is kind of brought to you or given to you, and you don't really have that much of an active involvement. Whereas a number of places, McDonald's and Burger King, Panera, places like that, you ask for a soda, you can go and you can get a soda, and you can get your own soda, right? You can mix and match like a lot of little kids love to do, right? You ever seen the little kids, like, you're in McDonald's and there's like 12 different things that they can choose from, and they're going around and punching the little buttons, and they got some concoction. I don't think I'd want to drink it, but when you're 5 years old, hell, that's lots of fun. But again, what's happening is the consumer is moving from a passive agent to an active agent in the process. And a second way that value co-creation has changed an organization's view of customers is the organization is moving from communicating with customers to having a dialogue with customers. And so, if you think about the number of websites that you might go on and you start to do something, and then, excuse me, what ends up happening is maybe there's a pop-up box that says, hey, there's a rep here, would you like to chat, kind of stuff. So there's an interaction there, right? A lot of places now, if you look at the Yelps of the world or the TripAdvisors of the world, and again, that's kind of a moving from a passive to an active agent. But what happens in some cases is that restaurants or hotels or whatever's being rated, they will have their employees regularly monitor those sites, and will end up having dialogue in some cases with a customer, particularly a customer who's had a negative experience. And I've seen some discussion threads where customer types in some, said I had a horrible experience, and within a really short period of time, an employee of the organization types back and says, "Wow, I'm really sorry to hear about that. Can you tell me when it happened? What time it happened, and can you give me a little more detail?" And sometimes the customer gives that detail, and then the employee will come back and say, "Hey, that's really too bad. We're really sorry. Can you give us a little more, perhaps maybe give us a little more detail?" And so instead of just kind of a restaurant saying, "Come eat at our place," or a hotel comes and, "Hey, we got really good prices," or whatever, there's more of a dialogue that's going on, as opposed to just an organization trying to communicate with customers. There's more of a back and forth that goes on. All right. So we spent some time talking about the value co-creation concept, and what we'll spend the rest of this discussion talking about is technology, and actually there's an overlap, believe it or not, between value co-creation and technology, because one of the things that, and it just this concept just it scares the hell out of me. Excuse my language. I once worked in the trucking industry. After I got my MBA, I worked in the trucking industry in New Jersey, and I managed Teamsters, and I used some colorful language when I was at work. So some of that language just hasn't gone away in my ordinary talk. But what I'm talking about is the concept of 3D printing or additive manufacturing. And I don't know what you know about 3D printing or additive manufacturing, but it's really it's extremely interesting. Has tremendous potential, but like I said, it scares the hell out of me because it's in its infancy, and the idea that in me from a logistics perspective, right, or a supply chain perspective, I see potential disruptions. Like, for example, my wife is an audiologist, and the traditional way that audiologists have made hearing aids for their patients is the patient comes in, the patient gets tested, the audiologist, makes notes about, what type of hearing aid and what the specifications of the hearing aid in terms of being able to facilitate the person's hearing is going to be. They send that information off to a manufacturer, and they can do it electronically. I mean, you can take some time out of it by doing it electronically. But the information gets sent off to a manufacturer. The patient goes away. The manufacturer makes the hearing aids. The hearing aids get shipped back to the audiologist or the particular practice. The audiologist contacts the patient comes back in, the audiologist and the patient sit down, the audiologist fits the hearing aids on the patient goes, oh God, I can't hear, the audiologist goes, oh God, this is not good, and then takes another set of measurements, and the whole process gets started all over again. You say, what does this have to do with 3D printing? Well, one of the areas that 3D printing has kind of evolved in involves hearing aids, and I went to a presentation several years ago, and it was just absolutely fascinating, because what happens with 3D printing, let's say with respect to hearing aids, is the patient comes in and the audiologist runs the test, and the audiologist inputs the information into a computer, and that information is transmitted to a 3D printer that's in the office, right? And within an hour, the person has the hearing aids, right? The hearing aids are then fitted, right? They run the test, and if some modifications need to be made, the audiologist inputs that into the into the computer, goes back into the to the 3D printer, and in another hour. So you've taken tremendous amounts of time out of the process, and certainly if you're looking from a value perspective, time is really important. And that can add tremendous amounts of value. But then you start to think about, holy smokes, right? I look at it from a supply chain perspective, and it's like, okay, so the order was transmitted, but then the order was delivered, and then it was manufactured away from where the order was being delivered. And so you've got transportation companies, and probably something like a UPS or a FedEx or maybe the US Postal Service would be transporting the hearing aid, because it's really small, right? They'd be transporting the hearing aid from where it was manufactured to the to the audiology practice. Well, that goes away with 3D printing. 3D printing allows for incredible customization, right? I mean, you want to talk about basically make to order. If you and they've talked about this with automobiles, they haven't gotten quite that far yet. But if you're thinking about an automobile, you like a particular model of automobile. I like a particular model. Maybe it's the same model. You want yours 20 feet long. I want mine 17 feet long. I mean, it's just tremendous. So you've got that whole the evolution that's going on in technology with stuff like 3D printing. And one of the really scary things about 3D printers is, if I were if I were to ask people 5 years ago how many of them had a 3D printer, nobody would have a 3D printer. And I just got back a couple of weeks ago. I got back from teaching in Croatia, and one of the students in Croatia's brother had gotten a 3D printer for his birthday. And so those things are, you can get like, 3D printers now. You can get a really decent 3D printer for under $300. And so, and it just, if you're fascinated by this, there's a lot of material out there on 3D printing. So you've got from a technology perspective, you've got something like 3D printing that both does a value co-creation as well as a technology thing. And then a second aspect of technology that I'd like to talk about is the whole mobile marketing concept, with mobile marketing being defined as marketing done with or on a mobile or a mobile device. And so, I think about when I was your age, and you go, oh God, you were right. It was a long time ago. There's no question that it was a long time ago. It was like 40 years ago, maybe a little longer. When I was 40, 43, something like that, when I was your age. But, desktop computers didn't exist. You just had big mainframe computers. There were no such things as cell phones, right? There weren't smart watches. There was no internet. The internet, there was no internet. And so you've got this tremendous evolution in technology where a lot of different things can be done on mobile devices, right? I mean, you think of they call it a smartphone, but that's a great name for it, because it's just, they started out as cell phones, and now it's this device that allows you to do this, 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 and yeah, if you get really desperate, you can actually make a phone call on the thing. But you think about how you might use mobile marketing in your life, right? Do you, for example, do you do couponing via mobile marketing? Do you look up, prospective restaurants or prospective places of business? Do you do that on your mobile device? Do you, maybe do an electronic commerce transaction on your mobile device? Do you pay with your mobile device? I mean, there's all these kinds of things that are that are out there, and they profoundly impact not only business but marketing. And so, to give you a more concrete example and not talking so much generalities, right? A lot of, for a long time, a major medium in advertising was television. And increasingly, in part because television is a really good medium, because it can combine sight and sound, right? It appeals to multiple senses, SENSES, right, as opposed to just one. Like a newspaper, it's print, it's read, right? Radio traditionally has been hearing, right? TV is both sight and sound. But what has happened from a variety of perspectives is that more and more companies are shifting their advertising dollars away from television and putting them into more mobile applications, whether it's a Netflix kind of situation, or whether it's putting stuff on Facebook or some other site, right? But there's been a big shift in advertising dollars because of the stunning growth in mobile technology as well as mobile marketing. So I've hit about 19 and a half minutes, and I will stop there. And the next topic that we will discuss will be the concept of socially responsible marketing. So we'll see you down the road. Bye.